Welcome back. So apart from working on the side sticks, I got a list of other things that Justin wanted me to do, just small mainly, and this is one of them. Closing up this gap that's on either side there that allows air to come from the intake and sort of spill out on either side of the radiator. So this is what I've done there. I just cut a piece of carbon fibre there and just used the metal ducting tape there to seal it up, because I'm not convinced that we're going to need that in the end, because there is a fan pulling air through the radiator as well. But anyway, I'm going to do this for him because he wants it there. So, and there's the other side done as well. So, and there's not really any chance of any pressure building up in there because all the air can just flow out further down the back over the top of the engine there. Okay, let's take a look at where I'm at with the design on the new side stick. So since the last time, I've done a bunch of different little things here. I've cleaned up this bracket down here. I actually had to keep it on the bottom there because putting it up the top here created another problem. So I kept it on the bottom, and what I've done is just sort of taper it off underneath there, so when it's rotating around it doesn't hit. And given that this one may not even be in here, this is just going to be like as a backup. I'm probably not going to have this problem anyway, because may just sort of leave that one out anyway. So that allows it, when it rotates now, it doesn't hit this sidewall, or it does barely, but in the real world it's not going to really hit there because that's much thinner, as I had mentioned before. So the other thing I've done, I've just made these a little bit larger, so the ends there, the material around the holes is a bit better. And that was from a comment from Brenda EM. So thanks for that, and I will be fixing these up later and making those, this thing. I just haven't got a chance to sort this thing out yet. It's low priority because I kind of know where I want to be, but I just don't want to finish it just yet. So the next thing I did was out here on the end of the stick, I've gone and created this transition here. So how I've got that working, actually let me just hide this so it's not in the way. Yeah, so how I got this working right now, the round tube of that, this is a 1.5 inch outer diameter, and I think it's the inner diameter is 1 inch. Yeah, 1 inch. So I'm just sliding that over the end of the square tube, the 3/4 square tube right now, and then there's going to be a bolt going through here just to key it all in so it won't come off. And I'm probably going to have to just maybe put the square tube in the lathe and just take off a tiny bit of this, because that's 1.05 is the diameter of this thing if you go edge to edge of the square tubes. That's why you can sort of see it's cutting in there. But anyway, that'll be a snug fit when I get it sorted out there, so it won't sort of move around, and then that'll hold it bolted in so it won't move. And this goes all the way up in there. I don't know if you can see that, but it goes all the way up in there to the end. So, and then it transitions around, and this is the same profile as the existing 4130 one, although it's much larger because it's going to be in aluminum now instead of 4130. And then the stick end will just sort of slide into there, and there'll be another hole on the side here where the bolt goes that holds the stick in place. So this should be plenty strong enough, and these parts I can just make these on the lathe and then just have Brit weld those up. So yeah, that's that one done. And of course, the electrical lines there coming out of the stick for all the wires, that'll go down through the center there and all the way down through the tube here, and they're actually going to pop out at the end here. Alright, so down here I've sorted out this connection to the elevator linkages here. Let me see if I can sort of cut that so we can look at it. I want to do this plane there and offset it just a little bit. Other way. Alright, so you can see what's going on in here. I've tried to make this as simple as possible, as strong as possible as well, and it's sort of fail safe. So this is these KP4 bearing that Spruce has, and they're rated to really high loads, way more than you'll ever be able to pull with your hand. I think it's 400 pounds in thrust, this bearing here, which is this guy here. So what I've got in between that is going this way. I've got a couple of washers, and then this fork, which I already have. That was the existing one that I had that's out of 4130, and that's why that's slimmer or thinner than everything else. And then another washer, and then the bolt here, the bolt head. And so going back the other way, I've got a washer here, and then a castle nut, and then there'll be a cotter pin going through the hole there for the castle nut, holding that all in place. So the fork can spin around there on the bearing, and the bearing is locked in between the end of the square tube, this guy, and this cap piece here. And so I'm just going to make this bit out of a larger diameter square tube, and then have Brit weld a cap on the end of it, and then drill out the end there so the washers sort of fit there, as you can see, so they don't interfere with that. So yeah, that's how that's all going to work, and should be fine. It's a bit of a tight fit in here for the nut, but the idea will be that I'll assemble, I'll put the bolt through the washer here, and then the fork, and then two more washers on there. I'll put the bearing on, put the washers on, and then put this square block on, and then put the bearing on, and then another washer, and then the castle nut, and then I'm going to have to try and get that cotter pin in there. That's going to be a little bit tricky. And then once that's all in, that whole assembly, which will be, you know, this part here, the square part, and everything else with it, will slide onto the end of the square tube, this guy, and then the bolt will go through there to hold it in place. So yeah, the tricky part will be just getting that cotter pin in there, but I should be able to figure out how to do that. I think, yeah, because this is going to be sort of shrouding it. I don't have to reach in through this narrow gap here. I'll have the wider gap, so shouldn't be that difficult. And then we'll just slide in there, and everything will stay nice and snug. So that way the fork can rotate independent of the square tube stick itself, which is what I need. And then obviously connecting to that is the existing stuff, which I'll show you here in a minute. So this is how the existing one looks, and you can see I've got two rod ends that are connected together, and they go through into the fork there, and they're held in place by an AN4 bolt there. And then the rest of it, this old thing, that'll all be replaced with what you've just seen. So hopefully that'll all work out nicely. And while we got this cutaway view here, I guess I'll give you a look how it all sort of comes together down the end here, although it's sort of on an angle. But anyway, that's basically how that's working there. Can't remember why I put that cap on there. I don't think I need that. That's going to go away. Yeah, that's going away. I'll have to remember why I put that on there. Obviously it doesn't need to be there. I think I was messing with something else and just lost it. Anyway, so yeah, the wires and stuff will come up that inside of that tube there, and then go up through to the side stick itself. So all the buttons and stuff work on the side stick. So yeah, I've still got more work to do on this, but I've ordered all the materials. So what my goal is going to be first is to create some of these parts. So this part, these guys, and put these bearings on here, and then this guy, and then I'm going to put this in a vise, this part here, and then load up this guy, trying to torque it, trying to rotate it, and see where, if anything, sort of, breaks or whatever with just me, putting like, probably 90-100 pounds of torquing force on it, like you would if you were pushing on the stick, because that's about the most you'll ever be able to do, is about 100 pounds of torquing. But I want to make sure nothing weird happens, like it doesn't slip out of the slots or whatever. So I'll bench test all that before I go ahead and do the rest of it. Wouldn't the rest be in making these parts here, and making these guys here, and getting all these flanges and stuff all welded up and stuff. That way I'll just be more comfortable that it's going to work when it gets installed. But yeah, for the most part, I've got most of this done now. It's just a bit tidying up with this guy here, and then we should be good to go. But as I said, I should have materials in hopefully by the end of the week. and early next week I can start cutting and getting things sorted out, and having Britt weld up this basic stuff for me, so I got something to test. Oh, and yeah, the other thing I did here, I put this on here. This is going to be like a fail-safe, so if it does come out of the wheels here, this will sort of lock in and stop it from just rotating freely inside of that space. So there's just a small gap right now of 50 thou clearance between the square tube and this guy, and I'm going to have to sort of figure that out, adjust that to see, and what'll end up happening is that'll push against like this wall here, and so it won't be able to twist out of there. So that'll just prevent the whole thing from accidentally sort of, if the one of the wheels breaks, that it doesn't just become flopping around. You still want to have it work, even though it'll be rough. It will still function in for the roll axis. So while I'm waiting for the materials to come in so I can get working on this thing, I'll probably be back over in the hangar and doing the rest of the jobs there, like wiring up those cable guards and a few other things that still need to be done. So anyway, lastly, I just want to thank everybody once more for their contributions to the GoFundMe campaign. That's amazing. I'm still not sure if I'm going to shut it down or leave it open there a little bit, and maybe put some money in the kitty to potentially have an open house once the airplane's flying. But so we'll just see. Anyway, thanks again for all that, and tune in again for the next update and see where I'm at. Thanks for watching.